Chapter 1. Rehoboam. Education of Rehoboam. Influence of his mother, Naamah. His early companions. His ascension. Demand for a redress of grievances, how met. Consequent revolt of the 10 tribes. Threat of war. Erection of fortifications. Exodus of the Levites from Israel. Religious corruption of Judah. Expedition of Shishak. Later years of Rehoboam. His domestic relations. His character. The court of Solomon, whereat Rehoboam was brought up, has been described in a former volume of this series. A place where such wealth, such luxury, and such unrestrained polygamy were rife, was not a school apt for the formation of a strong or self-reliant character. When it is said that Rehoboam grew through boyhood to manhood in the atmosphere of an Eastern harem, enough is said to account for all that followed. In a harem, princes, waited on by obsequious eunuchs and petted by their mother and her female slaves, passed their time in softness and idleness, without any training worth the name, without the spur of emulation, flattered, fawned upon, courted, encouraged to regard themselves as beings of a superior kind, who can scarcely do wrong, who are to be indulged in every desire and every fancy, and are never to be checked or thwarted. A judicious father shortens as much as possible the duration of this time of trial, early sending his sons out to the wars, or giving them civil employment, or at any rate removing them from the gymnasium and placing them under direction and guidance of carefully chosen tutors and instructors. But Solomon, from the time that he fell away, is not likely to have been a judicious father, or to have greatly troubled himself concerning the training of his children. There were no wars to which he could send them, and he seems not to have employed them in civil government. Rehoboam, as far as appears, grew to manhood as a mere hanger-on upon the court, the center of a group of young men brought up with him, 1 Kings 12:8, and eager to flatter his foibles. The enforced idleness of the heir apparent in all countries, and especially in the East, constitutes a severe trial to all but the best balanced natures, and too often leads to those evil and dissipated courses which are the great peril of youth at every period in the world's history. We are not perhaps entitled to conclude absolutely from the many passages of Proverbs where the evil doings of young men are rebuked, that Solomon is actually glancing at the conduct of Rehoboam, or using the expression, my son, in any other than a general sense. But still the frequency and urgency of the remonstrances naturally raise the suspicion that, in part at least, a personal motive underlies them. As a personal element appears distinctly in what the wise king says, Proverbs 4, verses 3 and 4, of his own education and instruction, so it may well be that the keen reproofs and reproaches addressed to the foolish son are barbed by a personal sentiment of regret and disapproval. It does not appear that Rehoboam during his youth had any special guide or instructor. No one is indicated as standing to him in the relation in which Nathan had, apparently, stood to his father. The prophet Shemaiah, who was the mentor of his later life, received no mission to speak to him until he was king. The chief share in his early education, if it may be allowed the name, must have been taken by his mother, Naamah. Now Naamah was an Ammonitess, 1 Kings 14:31. She was one of those many foreign women princesses, Ibid, chapter 11, verse 3, whom Solomon took to wife very early in his reign, and who ultimately turned away his heart, so that he became an actual worshiper of false gods.